Hello, my name is Nathan Batchelor, and this is part 2 of our series of how to rig with Rigify. Now in our first part we covered our placement, how I would place all my bones and go about that, as well as a little bit about Rigify itself. And this part we're going to be focusing on weight painting. So what you're going to want to do is go to your MetaRig and hide that. And if you hadn't done it already, we hadn't done this in the last part, just select the mesh, then shift select the rig, Control P, and you will see it says set parent, and we have armature deform. So what you're going to want to do is select automatic weights. Empty weights and envelope weights are great in their own way. I might show you how those work later. But for this series, we're going to focus on automatic weights. So go ahead and select that. It takes a moment. And now if I was to select the rig and go to pose mode, now I can select our rig and we have everything parented together. Now, sometimes this does a great job in and of itself. I mean, if you look, the fingers seem to be working correctly. The thumb is working nicely. Even the rubber hose controls are doing good, the stretchy controls. And sometimes when this happens, your weight painting is pretty easy. If you have good placement, then it makes your weight painting all the more easy. And so it actually shows we don't have too much to do, at least not on the body. And so you want to go ahead and start playing around with your controls, seeing what they do, how they operate, and seeing which is doing which. So if we're checking on the mouth here, we'll see that it doesn't look too good here. And you can see the bottom teeth aren't following the rig like they should. That's okay, we'll go ahead and get to that in a moment. And you'll see some of these controls are deforming a little weird. You'll see that this eyebrow is deforming the top of the skull here. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the wireframe mode, and then you'll be able to see it more easily. It's also affecting the nose. So you just need to go about and check out your controls, seeing which is affecting which. I'm very happy actually, the hand is virtually perfect. I don't think we need to do anything for the hand. No, the hand is... Now, what we're going to do is simple cleanup right now. So as you can see, this is affecting the hips, which isn't necessarily bad, but it also depends on what you want for your rig. So when I'm moving my rig up like this, I'm not going to want the hips to twist like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the weighting of these hips to the torso right here. So now what you need to do in order to start painting weights is select your mesh and make sure you've got object data properties selected. And as you can see, we have all these deformations right here. Now if I select these, hit Control Tab and then select weight paint, then you'll go into weight painting mode and you can see the palm is selected. Now then, before we get any weight painting done, here's what you're going to want to do. This is imperative. This is the most important part of the video. If you don't do this, it's going to make your weight painting experience not enjoyable whatsoever. Make sure you select Enable Mesh Symmetry, turn that on, and then go to Options, and you want to make sure you have Auto Normalize and Multi-Paint selected. Sometimes I have it on, sometimes I have it off. I like to have it on. And Lock to Relative and Restrict, you can leave those alone for now. So before we work on the hand, we're gonna go ahead and work on the hips. So you can go ahead here and search hip. All right, so it's not the hip. So if you don't know the name of the control you're trying to do, you can actually just use your arrow key and shift through this. And you can just hold it and go through your weights and it'll eventually show you. Oh, here we go. Thigh, that's right, that's what it's called. And so here's what we're gonna do. I am going to select Paint Mask. So what this does, it's similar to, as you can see, it has the face icon. It's similar to our editing mode. So what I'm gonna do is select that, and I'm gonna hover my mouse on the mesh I want to select, hit L, and it'll select everything connected to the mesh. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to right click, put my weighting to 0. Now, in weight paint mode, you have this thing called set weight. Set weight, this is your fill. This is like your bucket tool. And so you hit Shift K, and that it paints it all 0. And we'll just go ahead and go through some of the others here. All right, so spine, we want this to be set to 100. And so we can go ahead, Shift K, whoops, set to 100, Shift K. And now that we've done this, this will also affect all the other weights. So anywhere where the weights might have been, now there's no more. And so now when we go ahead and start moving, it no longer affects the hips. And this is what I want for these hips. Now, little other things, we can go ahead and do a little cleanup. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to paint mode. And I'm gonna select the torso again. I want to go through the spine and see how our weighting is. All right, so our spine is kind of gradient right there. I want this to be 100%. Set to spine 1, Shift K, select this, Shift K. Okay, this we're not gonna wanna Shift K. All right, we're moving a control. You can see it's kind of affecting the neck over there. So this is good. That means we found a problem. So how do we fix this? Well, what we do is we'll go ahead and just so you know, I'm hitting Alt-Z to make things visible. And then this is your toggle X-ray, Alt-Z, to go between see-through and not see-through. And then select the neck. In Rigify, there is no name for neck. So it's actually spine. What you do is you keep searching until you find it. So this is spine 4. Here's what I'm gonna do. So spine 3, you see we have some of it there. So here's what I'm gonna do. L, Shift, H. This will hide all the other meshes. And in that way, I can gonna select these amount of vertices and paint them to the torso. Now I'm going to use the gradient tool. It does what it says, it's a gradient. And if you hold Control, it allows you to snap. And if you hold Control Shift, it allows you to do a semi-snap. Oh, not that much different. Oh well. So I'm going to set this to 100, around about there. And then for this part, I'm going to do 100. I'm going to go ahead and select these right here. And I'm going to take the eyedropper right here. Now sample weight, I've created this shortcut and set it to I found it works conveniently for me. And so I'm going to copy this weight, hit D. That's my shortcut for draw. You have to put that in yourself. And then just draw around here. I want my weights to be consistent for this part of the rig. So just go ahead and rinse that and repeat that here. Now I'm going to select this here. All right, we got some weighting going on here. Just checking. Auto normalize is on. Perfect. And okay, yeah, you can see some of how the weighting consistency is here. So go ahead and fix that. Perfect. And now I'm going to set this 100% for the head. And part of weight painting is trial and error. And so sometimes you'll be trying some weight painting and then you'll realize that those particular weights don't work. And so what you do is you paint it, you try it, see if it works. If it works, great. If it not, well, try it again. Make something, do something else. All right, well, this is a very wide neck control. All right, let me see. Whoa. Something's going on here. I don't know what is or why it's doing this, but we're going to find out. We are going to animate this. We're going to actually auto key this. So I'm going to turn auto key on, hit I. Now for my keying, I have my keying set to lock, rock, and scale right here. And I'm just going to animate this, moving it down like that, just so I can see the deforms, how they work. And this will work if you have the grease pencil add-on enabled. So how we enable that is we go to add-ons, search grease, you'll see grease pencil tools. Go ahead and just check that on. And if you hit Alt, middle click, it'll allow you to scrub through the timeline. Even if you don't use grease pencil, this is a very useful tool. All right, so let me see. All right, so I don't think I want to have these weights here following the torso anymore. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try setting everything to the middle spine here. All right, now if nothing happens, don't worry, there's a solution. Now you go to weights, normalize all. Now I've set this to my favorites, my quick favorites. What you do in order to do that is you right click, assign to quick favorites. So for me it says remove because I already assigned it. And I've done this for normalize and smooth. We'll use smooth later. And I'll hit normalize all, and you see it's fixed it to some part. So the weighting here is not working for some reason, so that means there's something else going on. And so we go, okay, what could that be? What I'm gonna do is start digging into the rig and wonder, why is it doing this? You'll notice that we have layers here. Now these layers are where all the control bones are, but we also have layers for deform bones. So this is one of the layers, and sometimes we can find out what's going on around here. And so we'll shift select this particular layer here, go into pose mode, select this bone, go to bone properties, and you will notice we have this thing here called Bendy Bones. I click on Bendy Bones and you see we have 8 segments. Now Bendy Bones is great, I'm not going to talk about it now, but what it does is it creates fake bones in here. So if I was to go to my skeleton properties and set this to B bone, you'll see that it's got a bazillion little extra chunks in here. This is really nice for the spine. So having bendy bones on the spine is wonderful. And on the arms like this is wonderful. These are really, really useful, but sometimes you don't want it. So all you have to do is select this control, select this bone, go to your bone properties and select these segments and set it to 0. And as you can see, we have no extra deformation going on. And now we'll go ahead and shift select this again. And now you can see our bone is working just as intended. Now let's go ahead and look at the torso, seeing how it's doing this. I don't know if I want it to animate like that. This might also be a bendy bones thing. So let me see, spine. All right, so spine 3 is the torso. So I'm gonna go ahead and focus all that on that. So here's what I'll do. Pull out our tools, gradient. I'll just drag it up a little bit. I'll select radial, make sure I'm facing on like this. Now, the thing that's great about gradients is it passes through the mesh entirely. So go ahead and select this, and that should be good for now. I'll go ahead and just select through click through these a little bit, and then we should be good there. I might do some smoothing here later for the shoulders, but that'll be all right for now. All right, so this is a bendy bone thing. So for this instance, you can choose to have it enabled or not, but for me, I don't want this enabled. So skeleton, deforms, select the bone, and if we go ahead and do that, and I'll set it to 0, and it works just fine. This makes me happy because I don't want it to do that. And let's see how it works when I do this. All right, that's great. Yeah, I don't want any extra bendiness for this bone, but for the middle torso bone here and for the bone here, it'll be great. All right, so let's go ahead and just play with it for a little bit. All right, it's doing all that. Okay, another thing. So this is another deforms thing. You'll see that when we pull him up, let me go ahead and just animate this real quick. I pull him up, you'll see that his torso is getting skinnier. This is also a deform bones issue. So what you need to do, go back, blah, 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 select our bone, and this time we go to our bone constraint properties. You'll see you have copy transform, and we don't need to worry about this. And you don't need to be scared by all this. I'll teach you about this later. And you go to maintain volume. And so I'm going to set this to none. That way when it stretches up, it just gets taller. And I want to do the same for the bottom bone here. Set it to none. And for the hips, none. And so that way, when he stretches up and down, his body just gets longer. And that's what I want. His eyeballs are falling out of his head. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of the keys here. And now let's take a look at the hands. Now we see there's a little deform where the wrist is following the palm a little bit. I do not want that. And so let's go ahead and just animate this real quick. And there I would select forearm. So you have forearm 1, 2, yada, yada. Here it is. And for this, I'll go ahead and just select gradient. It's set to 100 and just select the wrist, set it back to linear and just select that area right there. And if we go ahead and just run it, all right, no animate, there's no extra stuff there. That's great, I love it. Woo. All right, so the palm is fine, and we'll just go ahead and check these bones again. And these are animating very nicely. Can make a fist there. So, you know, I don't think we need to do any weight painting on the fingers at all. which is wonderful. And so we'll go ahead and leave those alone. So the noodle arms are working fine. I don't think we're going to need to worry about the elbow here. We might worry about that later. All right. Wonderful, we have another spot. So go ahead, animate it, and move it. You'll notice that when we do this is affecting the torso here. So I don't want that, I wanna get rid of that influence. So let's go ahead and go to arm. We have upper arm, and we can see how it's being affected. So we just select this, Shift H, and just paint it away. Paint it to 0, and now we are good. Looks kind of cool, doesn't that? He's got a mask. All right, we'll go ahead and look at the legs, see how the legs are doing. Legs are working fine. I don't mind the legs getting skinnier or wider so much, at least in this instance. But if you guys don't like this, you know how to fix this. Just go ahead and select the bones, go to your constraints, and just set the maintain volume to none. And just do these for all the bones. And then it'll be fine. In my case, I'm not gonna worry about it. So we got our feet here, and they're working fairly all right. I want the ball joint to be just like that, a ball on the joint. So I'm going to weight paint this all to the leg. I'm gonna weight paint this all to the leg, or find somewhere I can fully weight paint this. So leg. Nope. Let's see. Ankle. Nope. Shin. There we are. So I'm going to weight paint this all the way to the shin. It's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Oh, wait. I forgot. Q. Normalize. It isn't supposed to happen. Why did that happen? I don't get it. Hold on. Hold on. Shift K. Try it again. Q. Normalize. All right. That's more like it. That is more like it. All right. Yeah, it'll be fine. So now we got the toes here. If we'll look, it's actually animating fairly well. That's because we did good bone placement. So all we need to do is just get rid of that extra little deform on the top and bottom, and we're good. So just make sure you switch your keys, animate it so you can see how it moves. Select your mesh, H, select the foot, Shift H. All right, so this is our toe control. All right. Just set our weights to 0, Shift K, Q, auto normalize, and we are good. Little thing, you want to make sure you delete all your keys so you don't have any leftover keys on your deformed bones. You never want to animate your deformed bones. That's why you have control bones. All right, let's see. Ah, there we go. So that's what happened over there. All right, hold on. Sometimes this happens when you're weight painting, you accidentally paint it somewhere else, and then some silliness happens. All right, let me see. Lovely. All right, so the wrist is working fine. Wrist is working fine. The feet are working fine. The toes are working fine. They work fine. You'll notice you'll have a ankle bone, ankle control hidden in the mesh here. We'll of course have to move this on the outside, but this is your roll control. So this allows you to roll it onto your toe and onto your heel. This is really good for your walk cycles. And I do think, yeah, there's even a little bit of banking. So it even does a little bit of banking here and there. I think we could affect that, change the banking later, but you know, we're gonna leave that as it is for now. This will be fine for our first rig. So we just wanna keep searching, see if we can find anything wrong. And so we don't need to worry about this. I don't see myself using the hips, this control anytime soon. Now shoulders, how are our shoulders coming along? Okay, so I want to put more influence on our shoulders. So here's what we're gonna do. As usual, animate. I have auto key on, so I'll go ahead and just move it a little bit like that. Perfect. Come here. There we go. We should animate it on both shoulders. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just have a big blur brush selected, and I'm just going to blur this a little bit. Just like this, and you know, I'm happy with it. This is pretty good. And in some cases, I know I've been specific about weighting in other areas, but in some areas you don't need the weighting to be that specific. Sometimes it just needs a little gradient. It doesn't always need to be perfect. It just needs to be good. And in this case, it is good. Just to check something real quick, I want to check this sphere. See where it's weighted, upper arm. Okay, good. It's already 100% here. I'm just gonna Shift K, Q normalize, just make sure it is, and it is. Wonderful. All right, so that does it for the body. Now, that does it for the body weighting. So, all right, so we should be done with weighting the body right now. So this will be the end of part 1 for weighting, or part 2 for, you could say this is. All right, so we should be done with weight painting the body. And so this will be the end of weight painting 2A, part 2A. And then I'll see you next time. We'll focus on weight painting the face. This is going to be its own separate video. I hope to catch you there. Toodles!